Don't crash any planes.
All right, let's just hit share just for example.
Bye.
When you share, click share sound.
I've never done that. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Man, no problem. I'm here to take care of everybody.
I know I put your name on that thing, remember?
A-D-J-K-M and lower E-H-K.
Teacher of the year, Esther Dickerson. Everybody know that. It's
To
true.
your next class.
Hey, you live and learn, man. Write that down in your evaluation. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how to even anyway.
What's up?
Did Connor tell you that the club got approved?
He did. Whatever you guys, let me know what you want to do. I have a little bit of time this spring. I'm gonna have some time to do some stuff. So
Okay.
I just need to let my wife know ahead of time.
Yeah.
But I'm going ice fishing in Michigan in like 2 weeks.
That's cool.
Pretty pumped about it.
We just have to talk about a time that's
Yeah.
good for meeting on prom meeting.
Sure.
So.
Cool. Well, yeah, just keep in touch.
All right.
These kids wear shorts. I never know.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How
What'd you say, dude?
How these kids wear shorts.
Ah, man, dude. That's pretty straight up. Like kids, didn't you used to wear cargo shorts like every day of the week in high school?
I mean, I'm sure I wore it like during some cold times, but never like this cold.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I attribute it to COVID.
I'm honestly.
What's up? I don't know. Let me check. I'm about to pull that up. I knew I was gonna pull something up. What do you need to do? Yeah. No, you gotta hold it for 2 hours. Go. Crazy. All right. So I know that using the cool hyperlink function, which I thought was cool because I hyperlinked, the video.
You were like, yeah.
I was like so hyped that I made a hyperlink on a PowerPoint, and then it totally screwed my class period. Ah!
Where did it go?
Boy, hyperlink! Don't hyperlink me, Kai. Gosh. You need to wake up. You gotta do that question yesterday still. Huh? You gotta do that question yesterday. Yeah. Didn't you do it? 'Cause I just went and looked at my break and they weren't there. God. What am I supposed to do? Just go randomly find it now?
No, I completely forgot that. I'm sorry about
No, you gotta send me a message saying that you did it though, right?
Oh, yeah.
Then I'll put it in.
I did during math after I was done. I had like,
did during that?
I had like 20 to 3 times.
Oh my gosh, I submitted mine 1 minute late. I submitted at
I don't
11:48.
care that much it's late, but if you're gonna do it way late, like you just send me a message, okay? Sorry about that. So do that right now.
Wait, no, because I was submitting at 11:47. I forgot that.
Why didn't you do it yesterday?
I don't know.
Why are you chasing me around? Give me my
Can I
space
go to the
again.
bathroom?
I thought we went over the red line, 6 feet. Get away.
Can I go to the bathroom?
Get out of here. Go. Hurry up. Tyler, don't look at me like that. I'm not your friend. Go. She's a tennis manager, okay? She's not gonna hold me like wrap me out, okay? Not like Tony, who's over here judging me. What? What are you gonna say? That's what I thought. Nothing. I'm staying in my zone here. I'm gonna have a little bit to drink because it's between classes.
Guys, he's gonna be very sensitive. You can't tell. Last period.
Last period was such a disaster that I'm now not taking it very well.
He was fine. All the kids are very nice.
I'm lecturing over Japan, which is super not interesting unless you can. And they couldn't even see the slides at home. And yet they all stayed on Zoom and didn't complain. What the heck is up with that? If I was a kid, I would have been like trying to throw a brick through the computer and hit someone. Yeah, but that sucks. Yeah.
Yeah. You're just like, okay, sure.
Oh my gosh. Gosh, this world. Well, it's a new year. We gotta have a new attitude, right?
It's better.
What's that?
I said, you went through it. You learned.
I know.
I learned and grew from it. I appreciate
You what?
I said, I learned and grew from it. I appreciate your struggles. So I can get up.
Yeah. teaching the student teacher what not to do. There we go.
That's probably the easiest class of their day though.
Yeah. So they see what's on the test on Friday. I said it's been on the syllabus.
Oh.
Go to syllabus on Canvas. You'll see the chapter 27.8 test is Friday. Yeah. It's not that content isn't that. It's all about kind of the same. It's all about how everyone had to deal with Europe and the U.S. being bullies.
Actually, don't understand. You're like the bully.
You what?
Actually, don't understand these people.
Yeah, because it kind of
The US tried to force.
the way that we used to teach this course when we actually had time and people were in person, it made a lot more sense. But
I mean, they're all kind of like the same. You're a
bully.
Yeah.
They all have the same tendencies, like this background and like too long.
well, where this fell though, like with the winter break, was not ideal because in a normal year, this falls with like it's all connected. Imperialism, like in Africa, this continues with all this stuff. You know, it's all the same. So. All right, it's Wednesday. Is anyone still in the bathroom or is everyone back? Is anyone in the bathroom over there? You're back? I think we're good. All right. I'm gonna shut the door in case I say anything bad. I'm also gonna have to tape this because I could not feasibly put the last one on Zoom because it was. I didn't say bad words. I'll say that. Like, I didn't curse. Well, you don't want to know what goes through my head. All right, Zoomers. We are going to take care of you this period. That's the attempt. So that should put a smiley face on your face and you in a good mood. All right. Let's talk real quick. You at DBQ. I don't know. I had 35 submissions about an hour and a half ago. I've got about 56 in my 2 classes. So that means that there's some people that still need to get that in. I'm not going to be grading that today. I'm not going to be grading. I might start tomorrow, but we'll see. Okay. To grade those, I have to have full focus, headphones in, and be by myself typically, or else it's very challenging. So now that I have a study hall in the middle of the day, productivity levels will go down. So I'll do my best. Other note, again, to the Zoomers, chapter 27, 28 test is Friday. It is over. 27 was Ottoman Empire and China, 1750 and 1900. And this chapter is Japan, and yesterday was Russia in the same time. Okay. I got a little bit of a review activity after the period today that will help you just kind of rehearse what we went over yesterday. Tomorrow we will do a bit of a review as well and a little bit of document analysis, and we should be ready to go for Friday. All right. Mr. Renshaw, do you mind taking the virtual Zoom attendance? Cool. Thank you. All right. On that note, we're going to talk about Japan today, and this is definitely one of my. I really enjoy this. I'll just say that. I don't know if you will, but it's interesting because a lot of people always think that Japan just came out of nowhere and attacked the United States at Pearl Harbor, and they're like, oh man, how did that happen? But in reality, that's not how it went down. Like Japan for 50 plus years had been growing into a massive empire, and they weren't being treated as such on a world level. So I had a lot of animosity built up to do that. What I want to do, we've got a chat box here. In the chat box, I have about 15 of you. In the chat box, I want you to put a characteristic that made Japan unique versus every other civilization. Okay. Take about 2 minutes to do that. I'm going to mute myself and talk to the students in class. I didn't share the screen again. What a loser. I am on another level. Okay. I'm going to share the correct screen, possibly. There it is. Now it's shared. And in the chat box, put in one thing, those Zoomers, that made Japan unique, okay? Compared to every other civilization. Do it as a private chat. Do that now. So those of you out here in the Zoom world, you put down 4 responses. That's so weird. 4 is not 16 or 15. So what are the other 11 people doing on Zoom other than picking their nose? Oh, I'm recording this. Able to achieve modernization pretty efficiently. Loyalty to emperor. Japan is unique because of its isolation and geography. During the Tokugawa shogunate, they beat China and Russia in a war. All right, good responses. They say they had the same imperial family. They are descendants of their gods. Awesome, Rowan. They were quick to adapt when they realized they were behind. All right, all good responses. Nakai, what do you want to add?
They're
Polytheistic. Clap. Chandler says clap. Yes. Ish. We're gonna go with ish. How's that sound?
Yeah.
Polytheistic-ish. It's a kind way of going with the flow, okay? They were little giants, defeated China and Russia while being a small country. That's from Samuel. All right, we're going to attempt to share the screen appropriately now. I think I got it right. Mr. Renshaw, can you see the slides? Whew. All right, 1 for 2 today. Oh, you guys can see the comments now. That's not right. I better drag that bad boy over here. You don't want to see those. All right, so we got a lot of this right. Let's kind of go backwards, go forwards as we have to in this class because it jumps around so much. So, if you remember right, if we go back just a little bit of time, it's going to take us to, I can see everybody. Those of you who have your cameras on, so nice. Thank you. This class has more than any other classes I have, which is 6. That's not a joke. You think it's funny. Okay. So the Tokugawa, this was the guy's name, the Tokugawa Ieyasu. He was the last of these 3 generals around early 1700s, I want to say, who used guns from the Dutch. Actually, 1600, sorry. He used guns from the Dutch to unify Japan. Now, when they unified Japan, they basically ended the feudal warfare, and the leader was a shogun who was a military leader, and it still was feudalistic. There were still 300 states. Each state was run by a daimyo, and they paid samurai for protection. But it was more centralized because these daimyo all owed their loyalty to the shogun. Versus before this, where it was just flat out like European feudalism before the Pope put his foot down, and it was kind of chaotic. All right. So the emperor then, if you maybe remember, maybe don't remember, the emperor flew off into the hills, didn't fly, he probably walked or was carried, but he lived in the hills and was only a figurehead power, like wasn't actually in power or authority. They still worshiped the emperor in like like not prayers. It was more like meditation, but he had no power. Okay. Now, they to pay for the samurai, the government collected taxes and paid them for their loyalty. And so the samurai were used to being very well respected. And we're used to, let's see if I have a mouse and it'll go forward. Oh, there we go. Now how do I go back? All right. Okay, so the samurai were used to getting payments from the government and being very, very well respected. Okay, not like European knights. They had a very strict code of conduct, etc. That'll come back and play here in a second. All right. So remember, Christianity emerges in Japan, just like it did in the Philippines, just like it did in China, just like it did in India. You got to go back a few chapters, okay? And what they say is, all right, we're going to shut down foreign involvement and we're going to ban Christianity. Remember, I think we read the closed country edict in this class, where basically the Japanese said that if you were even talking to foreigners, or if you go to trade with a foreign country other than China and come back, you're going to get killed. Okay, if you're a Christian, they killed you. Now, at the same time, Neo-Confucianism kind of replaced Buddhism. If you remember right, Neo-Confucianism is like that form of Confucianism that is even more loyalty to elders and less rights for women. Meaning, like Japanese culture, again, the woman was seen as the homemaker and stays in the home. The male is the dominant authority and the moneymaker. Now, they did allow one foreign country to trade ideas from Europe with the Japanese. Who was it? Anyone remember?
The Dutch.
Jonah? What's that? Bingo. The Dutch. What was the port, Tony? So the Dutch were allowed to trade, and they were only allowed to trade in one. It was a man-made island. It was cool. It actually had Dutch houses on it, and then there was a bridge that the Dutch traders could walk to trade their goods, and then they had to go back to their island, and they literally limited to this island. It's called Hiroshima or Nagasaki. You've probably heard of Nagasaki because that was one of the places where an atomic bomb was dropped during World War II, okay? Port city. So they then had two types of schooling. What's called a Terracotta schools, which was basically you got schooled in how to be a Japanese member of society. Only the rich kids went there that lived in the outside of cities. Inside cities, more urban areas, you had Dutch schools of learning, all right, where students had access to the newest European trends in limited fashion. So what kind of trends am I talking about? The Enlightenment, revolutions, studies in math and science that were made during the scientific revolution in Europe. That's going to trickle into Japan. That's important. Okay, there's some of that learning going on because China, remember, completely neglected that. You remember that? They didn't want it at all. Technological limitations comes from not adapting to European advances. What advances am I talking about? Seed technology. Eventually, use of coal, making iron or steel products quicker, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
But they still have those limitations today, our computers and things like that.
Question was asked if they still have limitations. I thought they were more advanced than we are.
No, but I mean, if they were to search something,
is there censorship by their government?
yeah, that's what I mean.
I don't know. That's a good question. To be honest, I would have to look that up. I apologize for not knowing off the top of my head. Isolationism is defeated, and it's an American general. Okay, 1853 by the name of Admiral Matthew Perry. And the story behind it's kind of weird. It's a little bit crazy. So the main capital and the busiest port in Japan was Edo, okay, which is modern day Tokyo, okay? And it was actually like legitimately, they had mounds of dirt that they made man-made islands of dirt and rock to make sure that oversized ships, like ships the size of American steamships and stuff, could not get into their bay. That's how they protected themselves. So Matthew Perry shows up in 1853 and says, right, basically pens a letter, and he doesn't know who's in charge. Pens a letter to who he thinks the authorities are, and he gives this letter to the emperor, or his people give the letter to the emperor instead of the shogun, saying, if you don't open up, we're going to militarily occupy you and destroy your port and take you over. Okay? Then Perry takes his ships, he's got like 3 or 4 ships, and goes to Taiwan and rests there, waiting for a response, telling them, you have 1 week to respond. Well, he gets a response back. Who's he get a response back from? The emperor. Who does he not get a response back from? The shogun. So the emperor, who is a figurehead authority, agrees to let Perry come in and opens up Japan for trade. Of course, Great Britain, Russia, and the Dutch all kind of capitalize on this, right? So it's the United States' pressure. Man, we don't ever want to call ourselves imperialistic, but we're the ones that open Japan up. But the problem is the shogun, the person who's really in charge, did not authorize this, and it's going to lead to civil war. Now, here is the depiction of how the Japanese look at Matthew Perry. The Kai, if you saw him at the grocery store, would you want to give him a handshake, say what's up, or would you kind of run the opposite direction? I'm probably running away too. Looks pretty scary, right? Dude's got a lot of hair on him. They thought the Americans were hairy people. Not like Mr. Renshaw. The guy's clean. All right, now. He's got a beard, he said. You can't see it underneath that big old mask. Now, here is what he actually looked like. So the Japanese weren't totally wrong in their comic cartoon that's probably not a comic of Matthew Perry. This was the general. Yes. I don't think they thought that dude has a nose the size of Texas. You just can't tell. Now, Dekai asked him why they gave him such a big nose, because they had this impression that white people look funky, you know? That's how it worked. Now, this is who Matthew Perry is to me. Everyone get that? Yeah. But and Mr. Renshaw, what was your nickname for him? Mr. Renshaw called him the snarky one from Friends, but Chandler. Yeah, we got a Chandler in class here. So, but no, that's just ironic that they had the same name, maybe unique. Okay, so this is also a primary document, kind of a cartoon. This is a Dutch boat. I don't know why they put Matthew Perry at the lead of it again, just coming in. You see sailors flying off. You see the steamship. You see kind of a ghost or a devil here. They weren't too happy about this. Certain people, obviously. Yeah.
Why are they flying?
Because it's kind of like they're just invading the country, just like recklessly, you know, and they can't control it. Good question. Now, this is going to cause within a short period of time what we would call a rift. Old versus new. So you have a civil war breaks out, but it had been boiling for a while between some samurai who were influenced by the West and making money and like started to adapt to Western style economics and this time capitalism. And they wanted to side with the emperor. Okay. And the emperor was known as the Meiji, the enlightened one. He had come out of the hills. The shoguns and the samurai who were more conservative did not. They wanted to stay like Japan had been for hundreds of years. They figured there was no reason they had to adopt to Western styles. And so what happens is you get a civil war. The Meiji, those in the samurai who supported the Meiji or the emperor, borrow weapons from the United States after the Civil War was done. The United States had a cache of weapons that they didn't need anymore. Industrial, if you guys don't know this, maybe you studied in middle school, but the Civil War in the United States was one of the first industrialized wars. I mean, cannons, rifles, railroads, and a lot of death in a short amount of time for war at that time, okay? And so they take a lot of that and they ship it to Japan and sell it at a reduced price. And it falls in the hands of the Meiji and the people who are adapting to Western guns and whatnot and technology. And it takes them a while, but they train peasants on how to use these versus these traditional samurai, okay? Now, this next clip comes from the movie The Last Samurai, all right? We're going to go ahead and watch this. I got to figure out how to do this right this time, so I think I can do it. Okay, click on this. Now it's not hyperlink because I'm not sharing it. Oh, hyperlinks. Did it open up? Did. Okay, stop share.
Does more than catch errors.
1 second.
With Grammarly, you can find really good, no, perfect words that make your writing.
Skip ads. Okay. I'm gonna do this right this time. Possibly. Okay, so I need to drag this over here probably. Can you guys see this on the screen now?
Yeah.
All right, check one. All right, so this comes from a clip from The Last Samurai, which is a fictitious movie, but it has a very good ending scene where you can tell what happens when Western technology meets the dedication and loyalty and unique culture of the samurai. So press share sound, share, and okay. Can you hear me? Kenna, can you, okay, here you go. Funny. Everything's so funny. All right, now we're gonna try to press play. All right, this could be really loud. We'll see what happens.
Yep. Probably shouldn't have done that. Splice that off something. But what you saw there was essentially tradition meets the West. What happens? What happens when tradition meets the West, folks? Tradition doesn't really win there, does it? No. So again, what you see there is Western technology defeating even one of the most, will go down as history as one of the most unique fighting forces. That is the samurai. And so here's what's established then. Okay. They call it the Meiji State. The only reason they call it the Meiji State, I put an end year on that, is because they like to differentiate between the Japanese Empire and the Japanese, not empire, but that doesn't really make sense. This new state that is made has the emperor at the top, and the emperor is also in charge of the army. Okay, commander in chief, and the emperor is sacred and inviolable, meaning they are to be worshipped like a god, a living god, part of the ancient gods that Rowan was talking about in his text, the Shinto gods. Okay, and the sacred, what are they called? The kami, the divine power. All right. And so feudalism is abolished, centralized power, meaning they're going to have a Western style government. The samurai are offered bonds. Bonds are things that accumulate over time. So they're offered like payments that they can make money later in time, cash in. Some of them take it and do quite well. Some of them say, we're too good for that. We want to keep our tradition, and they end up penniless in the hills. Okay, Japan's a weird place. You can hide. It's got mountains, mountainous terrain, really. And so what happens next then is this government that is created, okay? First off, as you saw, they conscripted an army, meaning they built an army out of peasant soldiers that was now fashioned like the German army, and they modeled themselves after Kaiser Wilhelm I and Otto von Bismarck, right? Remember those names? Remember how Germany defeated Austria and France in like a very short amount of time to unify? So they copied German style army. Samurai invested in westernization. So you guys have heard of companies like Honda, Toyota, Suzuki, Yamaha, Mitsubishi. All of them got their starts in some way, shape, or another. They've morphed obviously over time, but they got their starts in this time period, okay, when they took the money that they were given as their buyout for their loyalty as samurai and invested in Western technology. Okay, Mitsubishi railroads. Now they make cars and tires and all sorts of different stuff. Yamaha, same thing. Now they make guitars, tennis rackets, and tires too. I don't know. Weird stuff. Again, but a lot of the companies that are leading companies in the world today came from this. They adopted a constitution in 1889. We're going to take a look at this tomorrow. Constitution, though, the one important part is the status of the emperor. Worship as a god. What's the danger about worshiping the emperor as a god? Anybody help me on that? That's not named Tony. Inakai, what do you think? What's that? Could not be wrong. Couldn't come out of control. Good. Karma? What's that?
They die.
They die. What do you mean?
They won't be able to influence people as much after they're dead.
Okay. A living person dies. What happens to him? I'm also thinking this. Go ahead. What do you think? Blind loyalty is a big problem. Why? Because people will do anything for gods, right? They'll sacrifice themselves. They'll give up their lives. So you're going to see what that leads to. The diet. So they had skinny laws. They wanted to create skinny laws. So they had a diet for their laws. Okay, instead of having like a McDonald's grass-fed diet, they had a diet for laws. So skinny laws. Does that make sense? Charlotte, does that make sense?
Yeah.
What's a skinny law?
You said a diet law.
Yeah, what's that mean?
like, say you can't say God.
Skinny law. Do you think I mean skinny? You're spacing out. Tyler, what do you think skinny law is? It's a joke that Mr. Burnett's trying to make that Charlotte didn't get. It's not a skinny law. The diet is the name of their parliament. So the parliament made laws. Oh, I get it now, Mr. Burnett.
I get it.
I told you this yesterday. The Duma was just like the diet, which is just like the Senate and the Congress, which is just like Parliament, which is just like the National Assembly. It's all this thing that they make laws for the country, okay? Everyone with me? Like the Bundesrat and the Bundestag in Germany, upper, lower house, same thing. And then about 5% of the population got to vote. Super enlightened. That's also a sarcasm for not very enlightened, okay? Because only wealthy men who own land got to vote, but it got better slowly over time. I got to watch my sarcasm. Okay. This would lead to the quickest industrialization process that happened of anywhere in the world. All right. Japan used some questionable tactics to industrialize and put themselves in an economic advantage relative to where they were in the world. Okay. Modernize the Army and Navy. We already talked about that, but they created railroads, steamships, and big ports. Okay. You'll notice that an island country has to have ports that can take big boats. They had a lot of silver and they had coal on the island that helped them. And they created these massive companies, state-made companies owned by private individuals. Kind of weird. So the state encouraged private individuals to basically create monopolies called zaibatsus, where these monopolies would create what the state wanted. Ships, railroads, big guns, lots of steel in a really, really quick fashion, okay? And so those are called zaibatsus. And to basically monitor all this and set what we call quotas, they put together what's known as the Ministry of Industry, all right? The Ministry of Industry was a ministry in charge of setting quotas or numbers or goals that these zaibatsus had to hit. Now, add this up. What Evelyn said about blind loyalty to the nation and the emperor with you have quotas you have to meet. This is why they were able to accomplish their goals so quickly. All right, and we call it a great transformation. I mean, again, this is why Samuel said it earlier. I call them the little giants. Take a look at the growth in trade here. This is important for you to see. Okay, 10 years after their unification, the billion of yen that they're importing and exporting is under 50 million a year. 35 years later, on the edge of World War I, about to break out, their exports are over 900 million yen. So they grow by 18 times the size, their economy, in 35 years. Okay, you got to, I mean, that's incredible. Now, also, though, look how much they have to import to make that happen because they're an island nation. So who's making money off the Japanese? The U.S., Germany, Great Britain, France, basically any power that had a big navy was banking off this as well. All is well until the Japanese decided they needed more, and the rest of the world said no. Okay, so I mean, imagine this: you invest. If you're one of those people that invested and bought into the state in 1878, 35 years later, if you're still alive, you're rich, very rich, and you are now enjoying all of these fine things that you never used to have before. You can wear your Western style suits. You can get fancy haircuts, live in mansions. Everything was different. But at the same time, it was still Japan. It wasn't the United States. It wasn't Western Europe. Okay. So social changes. People start to live longer. Population explodes. Different foods that are now imported create a different culture. Okay. They have the population, so they don't have to pay people very much. Okay, to move to cities, and people are okay with it because of the loyalty to the state.
unlike in Russia, we talked about yesterday. Universal education. So in schools, every kid was indoctrinated with the idea that they were from a unique culture. And even though they were adopting the Western ways, they were a separate culture that was different from everybody else. Okay, now, because of the Neo-Confucian attitude, women still remained very low in the social standard, and men were expected to work long hours. This is still true to this day. And men were expected to serve as, outside the house. Women were supposed to take care of inside the house. All right, we're gonna keep moving just so that we have time at the end here to discuss. Just a quote from the book that I always thought was interesting. The way women are treated here in the U.S. is the way parents are respected in our country. So basically saying that in the Confucian society, parents are the most respected, but in the U.S., and this is in the late 1800s, women had more respect, and were treated like parents in Japan. So you see the difference there? Yeah. And so that's that Neo-Confucian attitude. All right. This is where you see Japan extend itself. And so because of the overpopulation and the desire to continue to industrialize and grow the economy, they need materials. Okay, they need steel, they need oil, they need markets. Markets are places you sell things. Okay, and they needed colonies. Colonies are where you find markets and materials, right? Think about mercantilism in the 1500s, 1600s. Same thing happened in the Americas. Okay, so what do? They fight Japan in a war. They fight themselves in a war, right? No, they fight China in a war when China was at its weakest, and then they sneakily defeat Russia. Like I told you, Russia couldn't get its navy there in time to basically take over Manchuria and Korea. The United States says no, and pulls out the big finger. Says, no, you're not allowed to do that. And finally, in 1910, they just annex Korea and take it for themselves because an American president by the name of, I think it's Taft, or I can't remember the name. I'm not a big U.S. guy, if I'd be honest. But one of the American presidents told them they could do it, and so they did it. And he went back on his promise. It didn't work. It might have been Teddy Roosevelt, actually. But when they take Korea, this is going to cause a lot of rift because they are forced to give Korea back at the end of World War I. So then they basically invade China again in World War I. They have to give it back, and then they go take it again in the 20s, and then they're forced to give it back, or they're told to give it back, and that's going to cause a lot of rifts. All right, but hopefully you understand why they needed to fight, because they had to grow. They didn't have the resources on their island. If you can look at this map, those of you at home, if you have this pulled up, or if you want to have it on your own computer, this is their growth up until Pearl Harbor, 1941. I think you'd be surprised at how many island chains and different places they controlled around the world before World War II broke out. Quite large. So lastly then is the question of, what is Japan? Is it an extension of the United States? Is it an extension of Western culture? Or is it unique, its unique self? And the thing is that's why I have McDonald's here. I mean, yes, they have McDonald's. Yes, you could probably go to Dunkin' Donuts or Taco Bell there. But at the same time, their national loyalty and devotion to the emperor built a pride in their culture that remains to this day, and a work ethic that remains to this day. Men in Japan are still expected to work 80, 90 hours a week. Okay, it drives a culture that's built on, a lot of alcoholism and, even prostitution and different things like that, because men are not home. And it's kind of an expectation. Even though you can't worship the emperor in Japan anymore, most people in Japanese homes have shrines to their kindred loved ones, their ancestors, and it's a kind of a Buddhist Shinto religion or idea. And it's not praying, it's meditation. It's different, but that's a Eastern religion. So we're gonna stop here. I think the bell rings what at 39. Is that right, folks? Perfect. All right, Zoomers, I'm gonna end the show here and try to switch the screen share. Everybody else, go to Canvas, please. All right, so I'm going to take those of you on Zoom to Canvas and go ahead and do that on the full screen. All right. Folks who have your camera on, say hi to the rest of the class. You're on the screen now. Share the screen. We'll go here. All right. So go to modules. Let's talk about what we've got here. So notes quiz. If you didn't take that yesterday and you are going to take it like the Kai did, you can send me a message that you took it, what your score was. You hear me? Do that. Okay. Final turn-in final DBQ right here. I have 44 submissions. I wanted to see 58 submissions. So I still need people to turn that in. It's a big assignment. You don't want to take a fret on that. All right, here are the notes from yesterday, or from today. Notes from yesterday, if you need to go back and look at those. And then the assignment for today. Okay, so I want you to analyze one event. It is Bloody Sunday. I showed you the picture yesterday. And we took a few notes over it, and I explained it. So explain the reasons for people protesting at the Tsar's Winter Palace. Okay, if you have this open, I'll give you the first hint right here. One of the reasons was that they lost to Little Japan in a war, a naval battle. Okay, thus making the Tsar look incompetent. What changes did the Tsar attempt after the 1905 revolution? So in this one, you're going to probably put something to the extent of the creation of the Duma, which was a legislative body that could make laws for the people. Okay, another one, I'm going to give you one. You got to find the other two or think of them from your notes, okay? Then go down here and you have what's called comparison practice. So compare Japan's response to westernization with that of China or Russia from the time period around 1750 and 1900 CE. And then I put right using direct comparisons. So remember, direct comparisons, DCs, are where you say one thing, a linking word, and then you say another thing. So for example, here's a similarity for you. Japan was forced to westernize due to Admiral Matthew Perry and the influence of the United States. Whereas Russia was forced to, or similarly, Russia was forced to westernize after their loss to Great Britain and France in the Crimean War. That makes sense? A difference was Japan quickly embraced westernization, whereas Russia tried to westernize, but the people didn't benefit from it and wanted to revolt. See the difference there? Okay. So this would be homework. Unless you can somehow crank it out in 5 minutes, that would be impressive. We have 3 people that have finished it. Let's see who it is. Not in this class, so it's going to be in a different class. No, I want to go. Sorry. See if we have a good example of one. Okay. That's about how it should look. That's pretty good. Okay. Questions? Anybody on Zoom have a question? If not, feel free to get off of here. Have a great day. I'll see some of you tomorrow. That'll be cool. We'll review some tomorrow. Any of you have any questions on how to do this? No? Okay.
Thank you.
I think it's over here.